Welcome back to The Perspective. I'm with Stephen Locke from Edelman. Is there anything else unique about the trust barometer results for Indonesia, apart from the big bounce in government? What other trends did you see within the survey results you saw?
For a number of years now, we've seen that Indonesians have much higher trust in banks than pretty much anywhere else in the world, here in China actually. And of course, to a certain extent, that's reflected the fact that Indonesia did not have a big banking crisis in 2008 and 2009. But when we look at the financial services industry generally, that lags a bit actually. Trust in financial services lags a bit on trust in banks. And when we unpack that, over the last, maybe for 2 years, in 2013, 2014, we saw trust in insurance companies was significantly lower than trust in banks. And we had speculated that that was maybe to do with issues about mis-selling and people's expectations and understandings of insurance products not really being up to scratch. But actually this year, we've seen quite a statistically important improvement in Indonesians' trust in insurance companies. And I think that's very healthy, and we've seen a big rise in trust in financial services as a result. But when we try to understand why we think trust in insurance has risen, I suspect that the OJK's focus on financial literacy programs has actually benefited the insurance sector. And in general, the more people understand financial services products, the more they tend to have trust in financial institutions.
Do you think as more of the population gets in touch with financial institutions, as financial literacy spreads, that will increase, or do you think it's going to plateau?
If we look at other countries, trust in financial services tends to be driven by a number of factors. There's no doubt that things like executive pay, debates about income inequality, perceptions of fairness in a regulatory sense, they're all very important and drive trust very much. So in the USA and in Northern Europe, for instance, the ongoing scandals in the banking sector to do with bonuses, to do with regulation, they undoubtedly have adversely affected trust in those countries. But Indonesia hasn't had those. So the financial services industry is probably more trusted here than in most other countries in the world where we survey.
Now, the trust in business, very high. Was that regardless of what type of business? Was it across the board, or did some see significantly smaller rises in trust or declines?
Well, in general, Indonesia is very trusting in business. So our scores pretty much across every category of business are higher here than we see in many other countries. But in particular, trust is very high here in large publicly owned companies and in family-owned businesses. Trust in state-owned industries is significantly lower, albeit higher than we see in a lot of other countries. So if we're trying to drill down specifically into the Indonesian results, we have a body of evidence now over a couple of years that says that trust in big business is good and strong, and in particularly large family-owned businesses, and of course a lot of large Indonesian businesses are family-owned, trust there is very strong as well. We have also been looking at trust according to where a company comes from, and I have a body of evidence now over the past couple of years that shows Indonesians trust Indonesian business more than they trust business from India or China and other emerging markets, which perhaps is not to be a surprise. But what was quite surprising is Indonesians still trust Western businesses, particularly USA, Germany, even the UK, more than they trust Indonesian businesses. So interesting and nuanced results there for Indonesians' trust in where a business comes from.
Do you see that shifting with the upcoming AEC?
It'll be very interesting to see to what extent the ASEAN Economic Community really begins to change people's trust drivers. And in particular, I think if we start to see international brands manufacture here, so rather than imported, and Indonesians begin to see the consistency of quality out of those foreign brands but local manufacture, I think we'll see a big shift, positive shift, in trust in Indonesian businesses.
Okay, great. We've got to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with The Perspective.